making another video of kind of what's going on right now with school. So I did not hear anything this past Friday about the CNA classes for the 7-week course. For the simple 7-week course, 4 weeks classes, 3 weeks clinicals. I was supposed to hear something. I don't know what's going on. That's what they told me at the Richland College counselor. So said that I'll possibly hear something by Friday. So I'm guessing because classes start June 8th or 9th, that I'll probably I would definitely hear something before then. So I'm thinking maybe sometime this week, Monday through Friday, I will hear something from them saying I was approved to take the class. I have had to contact probably what looks even on my emails somewhere around 7 or 8 different people. They're making this extraordinarily difficult, okay? And I don't think you have to, in my opinion, you have to contact that number of people in order to ask simple questions and figure out, like I'm contacting a pathway specialist, the allied health, the counselor at Richland College, then I got to contact this person. I mean, there's a list of different names of people, that they gave me, and making this as jaded as they possibly can. So, as far as my ambitions right now for school, I'd like to say that I don't think I've ever been put down. I've never heard anybody be put down, especially in the public eye in my circumstances, to not to go to school. That I'm never going to amount to any education that's profound in my life, and that I'm going to be going to DJing. And that's what my purpose is, and that's what I'm supposed to do. And if I don't, they're going to beat the shit out of me if I don't go along with it. I wish there was a group of people that could understand how tormenting and how violating and disrespectful these people that are so eager to control my existence in life and where it goes and what I do with it when it comes to a future career. Everything from using my dead sister, who died many years ago, as a stepping stone. Like there's an individual living here that looks like Snoop Dogg's, yes, the actual famous Snoop Dogg, who's with Dr. Dre. I'm almost positive he looks very much related to him. And I remember watching an interview where Snoop Dogg said he had triplets, cousins, or twins, cousins. And this guy over here is twins or triplets. So, and he's been milking the situation over my dead sister in every manifestation you can imagine. The platform of every environment is to use that mental metaphor so that it can be applied to me to put me mentally where they want to place me. And I've never met anybody more disgusting in my life. That is as disgusting as this, because in my opinion, to everything that's going on, if I live long enough, I'm going to be having some sort of ceremony for a girl that I didn't know that was my sister, and he's milking the shit out of it for Kenneth Cooper. And it's extremely violating because he's bringing up the President of the United States, saying, oh, that's a red flag, and then he starts giving orders. And as much as passive as I have been and everything that's going on, I can't do anything about it because the people that are involved pinning me down to what I can and cannot do. So the best that I can do is just pray to God. One of the things that's been probably very personally violating to me, at very personal, maybe even hurt me the most, I would say, was my mother's twin putting me down that I could never go to school. Everything that my mother and my mother's sister's triplets have been saying, and every word has only been that you're not going to go to school, you're never going to amount to high-level degrees, and justifying and saying things of other DJ friends that are going to get a career out of it, and to justify any actions they did to then throw me into that pool. And when I was younger and I was, in high school, my mother always wanted me to get an education. And she always used to always say, even it didn't get bad until toward the very end when the abuse of other people started showing up into the picture. But my mother is so deeply controlled by these people that when they tell my mother and they say, tell Hector's going to die of cancer, otherwise he's going to miss out on his DJ opportunity. We're going to make sure. We're going to do it. That's exactly what she'll do. Without any hesitation. And my mother's education and knowledge about what's going on isn't anything other than to now benefit just survival. And I don't know what's going on with her other kids, Marco and Julian or Frankie. But if there's any celebrities of anything that's going on in notoriety of building houses or whatever it is, a surprise or whatever, who looks good in front of a camera and who doesn't, who has a purpose there, and it has nothing to do with me other than to use me as a shuttling tool to benefit them. My mother's education and mental state is that of the lowest you could imagine, where you could victimize and rip the shit out of her brain in any way that you want, because you know the age, you know the mental capacity, and you know how to manipulate. This person does not understand about so much of this of what's going on, yet it's hurting me directly. And that's exactly what the psychologists are fucking doing. And it's very violating, because even for me to even take a simple class, for me to be like, I'm taking a CNA class to help my mother. It's a 7-week course. I just finished high school and I'm having all these problems show up. Like, it's not me that I'm picking at it. You gotta understand how violent the eagerness of other people telling me what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life and what I'm going to be doing and promoting. And they're applying President Barack Obama for the blacks, for the racial power, and for the gay community. And I don't say anything about that, but I know that's exactly why that's happening, and I don't want any part of that. I really feel unsafe to be in any circumstances where I know the corrupted police officers are involved, and the amount of celebrities that are involved. I could never explain enough that I'm sitting here, I watch hundreds of interviews all day pretty much, and every celebrity, every word that comes out of everybody's mouth is something about all this tragedy of Patricia Gadina being raped, Michael Jackson, how we're going to put Frankie as a leader over my mother, your dad really wasn't this and he was that. I mean, it goes, they know whatever details that they know, they use. And it's very violating when this worthless of a piece of shit thinks that he's bringing any kind of fucking money, and he's bringing up my biological father and specifically this dead little girl. And I know, I mean, if you looked at his face, he looks exactly like he has to be related to Snoop Dogg. So I don't know what millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and these people now trying to live on our dollar menu because I'm living here, and now they're going to be spending their money or whatever's going on. But I don't like it. And he's pivoting the situation about the dead little girl, my dead sister, because even this little girl died all these years ago. They want to make sure that this is a pivoting tool for Kenneth Cooper. Let's feel sorry because he's a transgender. Let's feel sorry because he helped the blacks at the black community radio station. It goes on and on and on. I have been buried in so much dog shit and buried in so much shit that there's really not any way that I can climb out of it. There's not. And I constantly pray, I be as respectful, but it doesn't change the fact that somebody starts taunting you about specifically a little kid, and who died and who isn't, and that's exactly what they're doing. You got to understand what suicide is, and I'm going to go down the rat hole, shooting with a gun, and then I'm going to shoot myself all the way because I'm already old and going to get what I want and get you to do what I want by the sacrifice. And so I don't like to be around that. I don't like to associate with people like that. When I go bury this little girl and there's a ceremony, I'll be thinking of his face. And the President Barack Obama is the one that's doing this shit because he's involving these psychologists and these people to do this to me. And I don't want to play any part of this. It is extremely spiritually disrespectful. It is just to gnaw at any mutilating situation that they can get their hands on. But like I said, I'm ignoring as much as I possibly can, and I constantly do, but it's consistently abusing beyond anything that you can imagine. There's no way anybody that I've ever known could tolerate that. There's no one at all. No one that I have ever met that could tolerate, if somebody brought up to you, like someone that's deceased that you cared about, or, your dad or your mom, and was mutilating that shit in front of you so he can go help Kenneth. Everything is fueled on where Hector's going to go, how Hector's going to use that dead little girl. No, I want it for me so I can use it for Keno and my blacks, and it's very mentally prepared, like prison mentality. I don't know if those understand the prison mentality, that when you're incarcerated is some of the most disgusting, pig-infested shit that very few people like to be. That's exactly how this guy's behaving. It is the pedophile that gets into a little boy's head and said, you're going to be gay, we're going to have sex, and we're just going to sex it up because we're just homosexuals and that's who you are. I mean, a very sick mentality. Now, I say this because millions of dollars or anything don't matter to me. I don't give a shit. I don't care for whatever money that they have, and they want to clean up their own life and now want to spit. They're playing sacrifice. They're playing, I don't want to be a part of this. I don't like it. I'm just literally just waiting for these classes and doing the best that I can and praying to God and watching these Jesus videos. But, what are you going to do, if you're getting, raped or being punched in the face? You just can't just keep saying Jesus, 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 Jesus. The police officers don't give a shit, and they're sending people to do this. This is all fetched out for, I'm going to feel this. I want to take all this anger you have, and I want to put it on my plate for Keno and that dead little girl, because this is how the blacks work for his community and the homosexuals. I don't like playing a part of this, especially even when it's a little kid. Like, even if it was somebody else's little kid, like, who I didn't know, I would not. I wouldn't. I feel very uncomfortable. Like, I wouldn't have said, oh, so do you think that's yours? That dead little girl you think you're going to use? I'm a fucking hero. I'm her angel. I'm Jesus Christ right here. And they'll talk like that sometimes. They'll figure their character and their emotions that way. And it's very frightening because most of this has become so disgusting that it's who's going to be thrown into the trash can bag, who's going to put a body bag over you, and I'm going to carry it for a profitable gain. That's all this is about. Now, I feel very disturbed. I'm not jealous in any kind of ways about what all these people, and I actually feel sorrow for those people. I feel bad for them in somewhat way, when I probably even shouldn't, because I'm not the one that's spending this money. I'm not the one, but everything is being directed at President Barack Obama. When I went to Long John Silver's, President Barack Obama's lookalike is sitting there waiting for me, and he walks in and walks out and starts, you ready? And they're playing this whole racial black movement. If it's not for the black movement, then it becomes a homosexual movement. I can never go with the list of things enough to tell you the things and how eagerly and motivated they are to come at me, directing it with the president that they speak on behalf, this entire hatred movement against me. I went to get tested for HIV, chlamydia, gonorrhea, syphilis, and they had me put a Q-tip in my rectum to wipe. They check for oral, and then they check for the urine, and then also get a blood sample. So they check from several different places. And I'm literally, and this is the first time I've ever had anything like this. This black transgender that's there, and I had no idea. I had no idea that this was the gay community. Okay, like I went to, I think it was like AHF or something. I had no idea. I don't even know where the gay hood is. I don't really know. I just know they used to have some of it, I think, in downtown, or I've seen a couple rainbow flags, but I don't know where that area really is. But I go to this place, I saw a billboard and online, and it's dead in the heart of like the gay community. Like there's fucking rainbows, there's like guys making out in the fucking street, like, this is full blown homosexual fucking gay shit. Like all fucking everything's gay. Everything is owned by them. Like I didn't even feel I didn't know this, but I go there just because they had a free HIV test center, and I saw the billboard. I didn't see the sign that said gays only, transgenders only. I didn't see anything that said that. I walk in there, no problems, polite as I can. The energy, you can feel so toxic in there. Like it is so motivated against me. Every action, you can just see it on their face. We're doing for Barack Obama. This is for transgender gay. Yeah, no, this is for our gays. Oh no, you're gonna do it for Michael Jackson. Like they're mentally stuck in that place, and it's just like that. And I'm putting my head down. I'm quiet. I'm like trying to look away, just focus what I'm there for. That's all. I go in there, get tested. I speak to this nurse, and this is the first time this ever happened. She put something on my finger, and this is how they do HIV, or that's what they told me. I've never had it done like this before. And it's my finger. He goes, here, let me see your finger real quick. And she doesn't even really prepare me. And she goes, bam, and she kind of presses, and it's a puncture wound. To my understanding, they do that with people with blood sugar. People with blood sugar, high blood. I think it's people with either diabetes or they're trying to monitor their blood sugar. I don't know what else it's for, but I've never heard of being used for HIV. It pricks a hole into the finger you have, and you start bleeding. You start bleeding, and I kind of go like because I really wasn't ready for it. And this is a transgender, I guess, like some sort of person that I don't think they were a nurse necessarily. You can tell that their face and their eyes is fucking death, like murder, like this. I'm gonna put your ass in a body bag, and I don't give a fuck, and I feel good about killing you. Like, very disgusting. It's not very like nurse, medical. It's not like just doing your job or procedure and just go on with the next patient. It's none of that. And I, as polite as I can, and I puncture, and I tell this person, I've never had anything done like this before. This is for HIV. He goes, yeah. He goes, I thought that was only for blood sugar test, because they puncture the wound and they can immediately tell. I guess for people that have for a risk of a heart attack or something, they can puncture it to see if you have like your elevated sugars are too high. So I don't say anything and I leave. But you got to understand the psychological shit that they fucking do. Like when somebody shoots you in your finger like that, and the person approaches me, like sort of approaches me like this and goes, and as soon as they do this, they go and look at me angry. Because you got to understand that is going to be representing Barack Obama's daughter. That's who that person thinks who they are and who they're speaking on behalf of. And that's who they look like. So they do this because it's a psychological brainwash thing that they do. The fact that they're snapping my finger, putting blood on it, and then saying, and it's like giving the orders that, no, you're not going to do this. And it's adding and implying pain and suffering without giving an explanation to anything. You got to understand, it's extremely calculated. It's such a premeditated mental mentality of very nasty shit. This is not for this person that's concerned about my existence at all. This person is considered about their movement for the president. Now, I go about my business, but you got to understand that it's whenever, anywhere I go, like ever since I've even applied for school, there has been more people putting me down to ever get an education than you could ever imagine. Like, especially this person that is Snoop Dogg's cousin that's living here. It's very upsetting because every time, and it doesn't matter, I'm fully aware of this, all the anger that they're creating and all the sadness and pain that he's distributing over the dead little girl, and you're going to be a DJ, and we're going to make sure Kenneth is going to get the profitable gains, and I'm going to justify that he did this, and I know, like, it's entirely focused on Kenneth. I'm Kenneth, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to figure out what you're going on, I'm going to do this. It's like that. Like, this person, like, you want to fight somebody. Like, if you were going to, like, an MMA fighter you hear about, they are always constantly thinking of that other person. What they do, eat, sleep, everything before they get into that fight. They're, you hear these stories of people, boxers, thinking of that. This is what this person is doing. From the minute I walk in and out, all the place, they report to him. I don't know who the cameras and psychologists, and it's constantly. He's even driving my biological father's car. Now, I think it's important for me to talk about because, I'm not doing anything wrong, and I'm not shouting out anything, but it's everything and all this shit that's going on. To me, getting a Uber Lyft, I can't trust anybody. I can't trust anybody getting into the car with somebody, because then they start poisoning my mind. They'll start shooting me with electronic devices, and it's to confine me mentally, because they know all the information of who goes to school, who doesn't go to school, who's going to get the DJ contract, who's going to promote Michael Jackson and the gays, who's going to do this and who's going to do that. So they're setting up booby traps in the mental steps that I take and every approach that I take forward to put me where they want to place me. Okay? Just like the last person I was in the Uber Lyft just yesterday, or the Lyft ride. I always have to be very careful in every situation that I go in. You have no idea the magnitude of things that go on. But that parasite, remember I told you he's playing psychological effects and all kinds of shit? He has a compressor cooker, and he just turned it on. Look. So right now what he's doing is he has a pressure cooker, and he's releasing the pressure. So after he scums I'm making this video about him scumming the little girl, right, Miranda, he'll go turn on yeah, it feels real good, you see? But it doesn't change the fact he wants the profitable gains to train me mentally how the dead little girl gets sacrificed for his dinner plate. And this fucking piece of shit monkey walks off to wherever he wants to go to. And that's it. But being angry is not going to be good, because everything is being directed at President Barack Obama. He's not the president anymore, but for the blacks, for the White House. And that's why this is happening, because of all the anger and all this stuff. Just pointed at him, and then whenever, guess what? And then BAM! Cuts me in my finger like I went over there. But it's I don't know if you can follow me what I'm talking about, but it's to train me like an animal, like a dog. You turn left, this is what you believe, then this is when you use Jesus, and that's when you can't use Jesus, and this is when you use reality, confining me to all these circumstances. But I think it's important for me to talk about, because, it's not something I'm asking for, and let alone that this is my biological sister. He's here just for Kenneth and cleaning up his pain and suffering, and for the transgender movement. This guy's he really is a gay dude. But I wanted to make this video because no matter how angry I get, I have to let it go, because I can't move forward. But it doesn't change the actions of what this person and everyone else continues to do. So I have to think positive. And even when I try to think positive, that's what you're going to do, to think positive. And I can't call the police. I have no place to go, no place to run, and I'm getting older. And, you know, they do all this because they know the president is there to clean up for them. So when it's time to bury this little girl, he's not going to be standing over her foot grave. I am, along with probably other family members. So everything is to justify everything. They'll find out things about Frankie, figure out things about Julian, figure things about this and this, and then apply all that against me, to turn everything against me, to make it work for what they want. So I think it's important for me to talk about how nasty this shit is, because all that individual is murder. That's a suicide murder. That's a full blown, from the top to bottom, a genuine. Barack Obama is a suicide murder. For him showing up disrespecting me at McDonald's several times, for the murder attempt that was placed on me, to everything that was going on. Every time that finger gets pointed at him, he don't give a shit, and he's not the president anymore. It's someone else. And then he gets his people to do it. So I think it's important for me to talk about, because this is how this little girl gets scavenged. Even though I'd rather not talk about it and not deal with it, it'll be held as a ceremony when it does, and if it ever does. And I already asked a friend of mine's father, who's a pastor, who could be the ceremonial talker, priest, preacher over her grave. And I don't, that'll happen when it happens, but you got to see how parasitical that becomes. Like, this one over here is about 50, 60 years old, 55 years old. He can just pick up whatever dead bodies he wants and then throw the shit on me because he wants to help Kenneth and Michael Jackson. And that's why. This is a prison mentality. This is like the worst. This is the dirtiest. There's some things I want to say is really nasty, and I know exactly what this parasite, but it's that disgusting, the worst, the guttering sewage shit. I don't like this. It'll be dealt with, in that ceremony, but it's just like, I don't like it, but it's like her rib cage is wide open, and they're just picking at her dead corpse like a fucking, like a vulture. You ever seen those vultures? They just wait and they hover and they pick up the dead corpse and they just start feeding and picking her ribs and eyes. That's exactly what he's doing, and that's exactly what the psychologists and all this other shit is doing. Oh, it's just to get rid of the anger you had, and no, that's not why. And spiritually, I think it's extremely nasty. As a spiritual person, I find that to be some of the worst of behavior. So you got to understand, and of all the stuff that you haven't caught on camera, all he has to do is go over to his pressure cooker, because you feel that pressure right there, I just ease it on out. But it felt very rich and pure when you were discarding that dead little girl in front of my face. So you can help Keno. So you can go help excuse this motherfucker. You can go help this motherfucker. You don't feel nothing for that dead corpse. You don't feel nothing for that dead little girl. That's my bloodline, not yours. That affects me. I saw that girl. I was there protecting her in any way that I was, and very little fragments of it in what way I was. But it's right there. It's just dinner time. You got to understand, it's just barbecuing the dead little girl. Let me see what I got. Let me show you how nasty. I wipe shit all over the fucking lawn. I'm a nigga, you know what I'm saying, right here. That's the mentality of it. It's very nasty. Because I hope to God that it's already been, dealt with. But if there is a ceremony, that's what I have to deal with. That is pure gold and riches to him, to them. Here, worthless life. This is, you don't know what our blacks go through. You don't know what the entertainment. You don't know us. And this is at the highest level of geniuses of doing this shit. Like they're mapping it out on a fucking mapping board. We need to do this. We need to do that. This is how I'm going to get away with this. This is for the gays. This is for the trans. And then this is how we're going to get his mom to go against Hector, because we need to use her as a permanent trash can. So we'll do all this. And when he goes back to his family, we got the permanent trash can. You keep getting mad at that, and then turn it right back down to me. And it's just a suffering existence. none of this should be happening. This isn't really much of any compassion, in my opinion. But please understand about kind of what's going on with these circumstances. Now, my mother's mental state is the perfect state of mind how Barack Obama could have been abusing my mother with his team. There's nothing more in his brainwashing my mother. And so when you come in contact with that type of power, you have nothing to do but to think about Jesus. Like, and I mean, like, you're in a prison and you're never getting out. Your life has come to an end. You are going to worship Jesus like he told you to, like his people ordered you, the abuse he put toward you, and then good luck. I mean, it's you have no choice, because you know that the brainwashing, very disgusting shit that they're doing is going to work. You know that it is. I know it's going to work. I know that it's not. There is not very doubt in my mind that what they're doing is going to work. Because when people are very much older than you, they know how to take advantage of you. When people are in really bad circumstances, people will do very desperate things. When people are used to eating nothing but pig shit, like this motherfucker, that's exactly what's going to happen. So, like I said, I thought it's worth me making a video. It's very sad, because this little girl, I knew that entire life of that dead little girl, okay? She's already been buried, she died, she's with Jesus now. Please don't bring it up anymore. Leave it alone. He's milking it for Kenneth, because he's trying to shift all the frustration and anger, put it on and evaporate it. Yeah, that worked for me. So it's to work for him. You gotta understand that, no one understands the dynamics of my immediate family with this dead little girl. No one better understands it than I do, because I was at the perfect age. Not only that, that's my direct sibling. I watched my biological father shed some tears for that. I was there. My brother Frankie was in his room. He knew nothing about what was going on. Like, he was going into his own world and what he think was going on. Julian was way too young to even understand. And I was the only one there protecting my mother, looking after her in ways that nobody even understood to this day. So when there's all this equity, and I show up to this funeral site and I don't see his face there, who got the profitable gain? Oh, it's not his fault, it's President Barack Obama. Okay, point it up, he's not going to be there either. Oh, and to throw me that right there. Because then you can use that as a very frightening tool for the afterlife of Jesus Christ and all these things. And it's very terrorizing. It's very terrorizing. And I don't like it at all. But I have to deal with it. And when I shouldn't. And it's just to milk me. It's just to milk the whole situation. So, it has a lot of equity. And I say a lot of equity because obviously if you don't know who someone is, you're not going to have a lot of tears. You're not going to have very many mental thoughts of that person because you didn't know who they were. There's loads of people that die all the time, and cemeteries that are putting people in caskets all the time. There's little kids dying right now in a cancer research center, a children's medical center. Death is around us at all times, for all of us. It's just some people don't give a shit. And, when all this promise, you're going to do this, and you're going to get that, and then I got you a car for this, or whatever it isn't going to change the fact that that's a waiting stepping stone, and that is going to be damaging to me the most, and my mother. Frankie, they doesn't share the same biological father, and you got to understand, everything is premeditated. Everything has to be premeditated. Oh, Frankie has a daughter, he understands what little girls are, and then the little girl died. No, he's a hero. No, that's not what happened when we were living there. Oh no, Julian has a little girl now, and he's real mature, but he's really just a righteous now gay man. Oh, he gave you a transplant, and so though they know all this information, they'll utilize it to their benefiting gain. But it doesn't change the fact that that is still my sister that got thrown away like trash. Didn't change the fact that President Barack Obama is doing this right to my face at the McDonald's where I saw my dead sister. where I saw him met Michael Jackson. No, he gets Michael Jackson. You see how President Barack Obama worked? Now, my assumptions is, I could be wrong about this, is they're planning, the White House, the president is planning to give me some fucking award. Some type of Medal of Honor or some bullshit. And he's the one that's cleaning it up. So you can put it around my neck. So you can clean up for Kenneth, and he's just picking up her shit off the fucking ground. Who got the life, who doesn't? Because remember, the past is the past. I'm just going to commit suicide all the way and just start killing, and then suicide. Because that's the mentality. No, it's not that. It's just Jesus Christ. It's just Jesus Christ right here. Just Jesus Christ. Just Jesus. Yeah, it's nice to be that though, huh? And I don't like. I believe in proper ceremonies. I believe in respect up to some degree of that. Obviously, people tend to give the dead more respect than they do the living, and we need to be the opposite of that. We need to do more respecting than toward the dead. The dead has already been gone, and this little girl and all this equity is for that profitable gain, because he's feeling emotional and sorry. He's Kenneth Cooper. He intakes body Kenneth Cooper's, spirit, and I'm Kenneth, and I'm gonna figure out how to do this, and then this is, he did things for the blacks. You don't understand. I know how that little girl and your mother worked, and how your dad was, and I know what he was thinking. This is like the worst of prison dog shit, of sewage shit, of mentality. It's very nasty. I've come across these people, and the most disgusting of pigs. It's very disgusting. Especially when you target someone so innocent to these situations as myself, when you know who's really bearing this situation with the dog shit. They know about her picking me up. Every day I used to go to school, and the short bus would come pick her up, and I always had this mentality of me going to school, and like we were going to school together. And it was so fucked up because I felt so bad for the little girl, that I knew that that was her only little brother, and I used to remember walking out, and like you were sort of being accompanied by something that was along with you. And I remembered feeling that way and thinking, and that little girl used to be walked by this guy. And so you have to understand that, for those that give a shit, everything in the position that someone is in is also in reference of her. Because remember, she lived right next door. So he'll put him over to her casket, and then he'll say something, oh, it's you right there, and then he'll go in his room and goes, no, you're fine, and he'll close the door, right? Because she lived next door. Shut the door, I claim her dead body, and it goes on and on. When I went to Richland College 2 months ago, when I talked about this in my other video, I had a counselor literally just look toward the ground and pick up her cross, and she goes, oh, thank you for your dead body. Like, she didn't say dead body, but they know about the dead person, whether it was Patricia Godino or if it was my dead sister or whatever dead body now they want to claim. Now they're putting that shit on me. Like, I don't even know who you are, and you're saying this shit to me. And this is what I have to deal with. So I think it's important for me to talk about. I pray. I don't think I've ever been more praying in my life when I go to sleep and whenever I wake up than I probably have in many, many years of my life. Even though I would do prayers, like I was so used to in my life, especially before I ever went homeless, everything that I ever ate in my life, a bag of chips, I would give prayer to God. Thank you, God, for this bag of chips. Thank you, God, for this candy bar. I don't ever eat candy, but I'd buy me a cookie. I'd buy me some fruit when I was 25, 27, and I would say, thank you, God. If it was a couple chips that I would get from somebody, I would say, thank you, God. Thank you, God, for feeding me today. It was something. I'd get a bag of chips at a vending machine. I'd be at work, and I would sort of give a prayer. Thank you, God, for giving me something to eat. And I lived like that for so long, and up until it got so bad that I wasn't allowed to pray anymore before my meals. And when I talk about my discipline level of praying before every meal I ever ate was always our key. Was always pray before every meal I eat. Every meal that is given to me, to be thankful and eat as much as I can. And I throw any of it away because there's someone that's starving would like that food to eat. And I should be only grateful and consume what I can consume and not more of that. But it is, I couldn't do that anymore. But I would, believe in God, and it becomes so disoriented in so many circumstances, and homeless shelters, and you're just trying to survive. You really don't have any. You're just trying to survive. But I haven't been. This is probably the last while that I've been, for now, a good while, just praying, like sort of a mental prayer for God to help me, to get through this, and to believe in faith, that even when it feels at the worst, that there's no existence of Him, just to have faith of Him, that I don't have to be evaluated from something that tells me He existed, just to have faith, which is the most beautiful thing that you can, to my understanding, in God's belief, you can give is faith, because you're not proven any reward or anything from a higher creator to evaluate the love of Christ and God and the protection of our Savior and the heavenly angels and gods above us. You're not testing that. But I think that, for me to be sitting in circumstances is the abuse is, and it's just like if I were to be in if I were to be in like a prison, right? I guess it's a little bit different, right? Way different, but it's very terrorizing when I have to gamble with my own life. Like, I could develop cancer, something can happen to me. My time's taken away as well, and I'm not supposed to be thinking about that. You gotta understand. Nobody seems to really kind of get a grip at the number of people that are coming at me, and it is with that meant that they're not on my side. They're not to help me. This is not a genuine, I love your being as a person, and I'm going to respect you as much as you can, by not playing any mental poison onto your shit to say that you can do it. You can do something else in your life. You don't have to be a part of whatever shenanigans or whatever it may be. It's a gruesome thing. Like, I really don't look forward toward any of this, especially when it comes to. The only thing I look forward to, if this ceremony ever gets held, is finally to put it to rest. That's the only thing I look forward to, because the mutilation of how this girl, people were doing in front of me was so great that, and the president mutilating this by his people, that, there's not fixing it. It's just letting Jesus and let God deal with that, letting go, and having a ceremony just to give it a rest, because there's no judge, there's no judgment, there's no law enforcement, there is nothing in the human existence that's ever going to do about what this Barack Obama and his people were responsible for doing to me. And want to play stupid later and talk fancy words later and think this is some good thing, and I'm joking and I'm not. But I have no choice but to fall on my knees and worship a fake idol God, because if you don't, I'll beat your fucking ass, and I'll send my people again to do it. You gotta understand that, you gotta have people. I understand you have to have people care for your life, and I don't have very many people that do at all. They're more preoccupied in living their own lives and their goals, because they're not in the turmoil shit that I'm in. And life is hard to begin with, for all of us, trying to find a job, trying to make ends meet. But anyway, I thought I'd make a video. I would never. It's painful, because I really thought that my mother behaved different, and if my mother, sometimes I think when I was younger, if I had gone to school, what my mother would be behaving and saying, for a period of time, but there was so much pressure and there was so much bad shit going on with my mother. They got my mother exactly where they want to place her, and it hurts me. It hurts and it bothers me that I have to keep praying and praying. Oh dear God, Lord Jesus, please observe, because the power of what these people, this is murder suicide is what they're doing. This is just a wage of war of death. I don't know what direction. Please, for your protection, for anything, and grant me the understanding that I need to let go, because what they're doing to my mother, I would have never allowed, and I will never be able to get back again. You know, I think that when people abuse circumstances, you should be held accountable to that level of degree, and how disgusting some of these individuals were, and they never will be. They're going to be praised, they're going to be thanked, they're going to be worshipped, they're going to say fancy words, and that wasn't the truth. That's not what happened. And my life is as worthless as that little girl's life was, in the way that these people talked about that and treated it with their team. They don't cry, they don't feel nothing. I get thrown in a garbage can, in a plastic bag, thrown off. For the president. For the president. For the transgender president. For the transgender movement. No, you don't understand gays and transgender. It doesn't ever stop. So it's like, you know, it's very harsh. It's tough. So I thought I'd make this video trying to get an education. I have my feelings about how, whenever I was younger, I think one of the greatest mistakes so far I've learned is I should have gotten my GED a long time ago, because I feel like, wow, I could have probably earned or I won't feel that more greater until I finish at least some kind of 7-week course or whatever, 9-week course of a certificate class. Rather, how I feel about that. I know that I would be like, right now I feel like, wow, I could have been doing so many other things and learn, because when you work for a company, you learn all these different situations and spend weeks and weeks on end learning something you don't know nothing about, like all these different types of printers or whatever it might be. When you learn in a class, it's almost kind of like learning the same thing in a work environment, except you have a degree and you can take to many different places. It's a certification. It's a degree, it's an education that nobody really can take away from you. So I thought I'd make a video on this. I'm constantly praying. I still haven't heard anything. Please understand that that's all they're doing is training me. Postponing, waiting, you build up the anticipation, you build up these emotions, you build up and they get crushed, so that when you finally arrive, you won't want to go to school, and it will put you where we want to put you. So it's very, very calculated to, okay, there, okay, it's very much like that. My mother's getting old, and it's very it bothers me, because I can look at my mother and she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand. She just, in the world where they placed her, they put her in that position, and that's all you understand, and that's where I put you. Ha ha ha. Now throw Hector the dead little girl I told you to throw away for you, for Barack Obama and the blacks. Oh, I'm sorry, this is for Keynote and the whites. No, this is not racist. No, it's for the gays and transgenders. We've already done this to him. And then ha ha ha, Jesus Christ time. Like I don't think much of this is that necessary, because there's been already enough suffering, and in my opinion, it almost seems like they're doing this because they want to make sure their money's going to count really well now. That's why. So there's a vacation to Dubois and a vacation over here to as a family. It's because you want to make sure that money's, well, it's just not about the money. Yeah, sure it wasn't. But it's not the best of circumstances, and I just have to accept. Okay, thank you, God, for what you gave me of the mother that you did, even though she doesn't understand, and she's not a fraction of the same person who she was or what she would have said, and how she would have behaved and done to how these people were behaving, what she would have said about that president, showing me the fucking garbage in his fucking mouth when I was at McDonald's, or running me out of that McDonald's. Whenever he charged at me, whenever I was over at Albertsons, and he was saying it was because of something else. No, that's not what my mother was saying, and that's not what happened. Or whenever I could remember being in the same place, standing there getting some ice cream before a movie, and I'm thinking slightly about the little girl that I used to see that didn't know was my sister, and that same very cash register, and he's charging at me, and his wife, Michelle Obama, comes at me charging, and then goes toward the bubblegum area, like, oh, you think you're going to get that little dead girl? Because that's exactly what that person was doing. But I can't ever say those things ever in my life, and I know my mother would have been different about that circumstances, but I have to keep my mouth shut. I have to obey everything they say and lie to say what they were saying was the truth, and that wasn't, because it'll cost me my own life, and it's very frightening. There's no mental serenity at all that they'll let me have. But it's hard, because I know they figured out the dissection of Frankie's over here, Julian's right there, we have our twins there, we have Marco over here with the celebrities. We'll make sure that if Hector doesn't want to, he'll clean up for Marco, and then we'll get Marco to help Mother, and then he will take the equity he has right here, and then make sure we'll take it away from Hector. We've already infected him. We've done him dirty. We already took away everything. Make sure he propels forward with Jesus Christ, because he's done for. Other people's lives don't matter. We'll make it up for Frankie by making his life very comfortable and soothing. And then you see how that works for President Barack Obama for Medal of Honor bullshit. And that's what they're going to do. And I plan to go to when I finish the CNA class, the medical class, I plan to go to the George Bush Library, because I've never been in there, and I think they have there a replica of actually standing inside the White House. Like when you go to the White House, the president's house, and they have like the furniture and paintings and stuff, and the couches. You've seen certain celebrities walk in there, like the Kardashians, Kim Kardashian, the actual place where all the presidents sit down, the president's table. They had that Oval Office, exact replica, I think, at the George Bush Library. So I plan to go there, take some pictures, take a look after graduation, and see what that's like. And hopefully I remember that. But yeah. So anyway, so hopefully this stays you informed of what's going on and helps a little bit. I just couldn't do that. I just could not. I mean, if it was like a dead little girl or like kid or somebody else's family, I could never put my circumstances in a position where I wanted to benefit like someone who was a monster, someone who did a lot of bad shit and didn't understand the ethnicity part of that either. Like, this little girl was like abused, throwing up. I watched this little girl hurt herself pretty bad in front of me once, and it's very, very sad and how I saw, because I was there at Ivan so often. I was there outside. I was the only kid that was, and I hate to say it, but that's the truth. Frankie didn't see any of it. He wasn't a part of any of it. He thought in his room that he was a part of it, in which he was, but seeing this girl, and I was with Ivan all the time riding bikes, and I talked to this, I was around that entire environment. I was there watching constantly, looking over my mother, looking to see how she was talking to this person, the neighbors, looking out the window. I got completely wiped away, completely evaporated. And, but I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that because, when you do that to a little girl, like this guy that's here's doing this, Snoop Dogg's cousin, twin, I couldn't do that. Because he knows that Frankie may be doing the same thing, and then he'll do it, and then he'll get Frankie to clean up. Because then that's my approach, and then that's the internal trash can. And, but I couldn't do that. And you can see the joy in it. You can see the vigor, the intense emotion that they over the dead corpse, like it's just a piece of meat. You know, it's exactly what that is. Um, you know, because it puts me in circumstances where I have to talk about this when I wouldn't be wanting to talk about this as extensively what it is. And so everybody's scrambling for this dead little girl. Everybody is. Everybody's scrambling for the credits of this dead little girl. How can I get benefits of the afterlife? How can I get benefits of her spirit? How can I get benefits connected to her, to God, and what we think of people with Down syndrome? All I know is that Ivan was her brother, but I was her biological brother, and I looked at her. And I've had a lot of people manipulate that. I've had people like find out that I looked into her eyes and she acknowledged me, but my understanding she was blind. I didn't know she was blind. She kind of looked blind. She did kind of look like she couldn't see. She was blind, but I don't know. I remember looking at her. She looked at me. She didn't acknowledge that. She seemed to have recognized and was looking at me, and having to pivot her head and face a certain kind of way, like they had to move in order to get a visual look at me, because they were maybe partially blind. I don't know. I didn't think they were ever blind when I saw them. But, you know, to what I saw, and it be a profitable gain like that, that's the President Barack Obama right there. And it's not going to change, because he has to use my mother and or my mother's sisters for a profitable gain. He has to use them in order to make an eternal trash can for later down the road, so that there's no argument down there. When you want to feed the emotion and frustration that you did this and you did that, the trash can's right there. So they implement that in the structure of it. But I couldn't do that, especially when it's kids. I just couldn't. Like, I wouldn't go to somebody that lost a brother like the way, know about the story, and be like, oh, you think you're going to take this? Let me tell you what the angels for black people and Barack Obama. You know, atomic bomb he dealt with Afghanistan. Shit, we got Marine soldiers dying all the time. This is for American flag. Utilizing that, picking that dead corpse of a little kid that I don't know, just so that I can feel good because, oh, this guy's straight over here. This guy's straight. Or he's gay or whatever. He's transgender movement. They're right. Or even if it was a racial thing. Oh, they're Mexican. They're right. Yeah, Mexican. Yeah, yeah, Mexican. Yeah. I couldn't do that. Like, to me, that doesn't really click very well when you put an understanding to that. To really say that, you know, that's justified. Like, you know, because they know I have to bury her, and I don't like that. I have to always constantly, I don't try not to think about it, but it's like it's there in front of me all the time, a lot of the times, where I have, not her, but the actions that I have to follow through of burying this ceremony of this little girl. And I'm not really looking toward it at all, other than to give it a rest and permanently. You know, like there was a ceremony and whatever, you know, because there's not any justice. You know, there's not going to be. But they're using that like a proper, you know, they're using that as a propelling weapon against me to then follow it up with all these other things that they're doing. I really don't know what, you know, I guess, you know, there's just so much tragedy and so much time has passed. You know, so many people have mutilated her in that sense. They know what they're saying and they know what they're doing to want to entice that corpse, that piece of meat that the vultures are continuing to pick her at. They know what they're doing. They know when they set up hypothetical metaphors, when I'm speaking to them over the phone, crisis line, wherever it is. They know that's what the intent is, because it has tremendous equity. And it's an equity of spirituality, mental vulnerability, sadness, tears, experience of death, and reality that we all have to face, and how we can negotiate with God. And that's a negotiation, is what they're as well as what they're doing. But I tried my best to leave it up to God, 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 Jesus, 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 Jesus. You know, Jesus, leave it up to Jesus, because I have to move on for myself, and I have to do something good for myself, and that's one of the best ways that I can do it. I would have given this the most beautiful ceremony, but not when President Barack Obama did what he did. Any beauty that ever gets set to that is for his burial, and I won't be saying that when it happens. He'll make sure I say something else different. Oh, it's just sorry. It's just I dealt with Iraq. Oh, it's just deal with that president now. No, just deal with the celebrities now, and it just keeps going. It's very bad, very, 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 very bad, because the things that I saw is I try to say the truth, but I try to add some equity to why my mother behaved the way that she did. She just walked away from this little girl, not hugging and kissing her, wanting to touch her, and acknowledging that I'm just sort of getting rid of you. Fine, your wealth is fine, you're right over there, and there's just okay. Everything from me speaking to, there's all kinds of shit, I went to the Holocaust to see this 3D hologram, and I was thinking, this is probably talking to this guy, and this guy hopefully he's probably setting me up too, even though he's a Holocaust survivor, to make sure I just do what you want me to do, because the whole gay movement or the president of the United States again, and you use 100,000 million people fucking being butchered alive, and then bam, do that to me. But I think hopefully this resonates to kind of what's going on, and I understand there's all these tragedies, but this little kid lived in front of me, and I want to help my mother. I give her the equity that she deserves, of what this precious life was, and have a proper closure to why she had to do because no one else understood that. And I was there as observing it like I was a professional, like I was there to observe it and watch. And this is 30 years ago that this little girl died, and this is a stepping stone for them.